What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? I have not done a live video in a minute, but I've been doing a lot of cool stuff. So, we've been doing reels, we've been doing shorter videos. I've been doing my FSD driving videos, kind of showing people what's out there. I've been working with Mike Heron a lot. Shout out to my boy Mike Heron, man. That guy is awesome. If you have a business in Fall River, talk to this guy. They do great marketing. They're helping me out, and he really helps me kind of dial in my message too, because I can talk for a long time. You know what I mean? So Mike's really good at helping me get to the point. All right. So shout out to Mike. And look, got some new merch. All right, comment below. What do you think of the new merch that we got? The hats with the license plate style. Tell me what you think. Should I order more? They got different colors. Do you want one from your state? Let me know. All right. So why did I go live today? Big day today. Okay. I'm so sick of talking about this dude, but big day today. All right. So Jerome Powell. All right. The master of the universe. Everybody's stock accounts, everybody's 401ks are waiting patiently. Like, you're waiting for the baby to be born. All right. What is this man going to say today? All right. So at 2:00 today is the big announcement. So it says 2:30. So 2:00, the number gets released. What are they going to do with the interest rate from the federal government? That gets released at 2. And then really the real juiciness, if depending on what that number is what he says at 2:30. Okay. So what does the market think? What's priced in? What's the predictions? One of my favorite sites for stuff like this is Polymarket. Okay. So if you're not on Polymarket, if you're not following Polymarket or paying attention to Polymarket, you're not getting the real juice. Okay. And actually this number just changed. Let me refresh this out of curiosity. Yeah, this just went up. All right. So this is betting markets. Okay. There is, I think, $200 trillion right here, $205 trillion of betting volume on what Jerome Powell is going to do today. What a world we live in. What a freaking world we live in. All right. So the general consensus is right down here, 25 basis point decrease. Okay. So he's going to lower it 0.25, 93% chance of that happening. So what does that mean? That means that's priced in to whatever stock you have, whatever crypto you have, whatever investment you have, that's priced in. And I'll talk about that in a minute too, how I think that got front run last week, but that's priced in. Okay. So if he does the unthinkable and goes with a 50, doubles the decrease, right, to 0.5%, 50 basis points, that's only a 6% chance. I think the market could react positively, especially if his comments at 2:30 are very dovish, right? Bullish, as I like to call it. Now, what I think would be so interesting, and again, I don't care. I'm not a short-term trader, guys. I build long-term positions, so I don't really care so much about the day-to-day. But what would be so wild to me, and do I think he's got the cojones to do it? Possibly, is if he doesn't change the rate or if he actually increases the rate, which there's a lot of monetary action on that bet, only a 2% chance. All right. Now, him and Trump obviously don't like each other. There's a lot of pressure on both sides against each other. So I don't know. Could he F you, Trump, not changing the rate? Ha. I think if that happened, we would see an epic sell-off, probably on par with the tariff drama in April. I am running to the bank, wiring as much money as I possibly can to Robinhood, and I'm buying everything I can on sale. Not financial advice, but that's what I would do. That's the only thing that would move me right now. If he did something crazy like that, I would go just like in April. It would be a massive overreaction. Couple of days, market would settle, and we would just continue going the way we're going. All right. Very interesting. Now, the next cuts in October, 64% chance of a 25 basis point drop. So there's not a lot of action yet. And then out to December. So that basically the market is pricing in 3 rate cuts. That's what you got to know. They're building my street outside. They're putting a sidewalk in. So if there's a lot of background noise, I apologize. All right. So why don't I care about the rate and all that? Because my entire thesis of investing is based on this number, guys, the U.S. national debt. That's all I care about. Okay. Because I know that this is unsustainable, what we have. So we can play games with rates, right? And this guy can come out here and talk about lowering rates and think he's controlling inflation, and they have no control over that. Inflation is this, okay? What do I mean by that? Okay, the forecast for the United States debt to 2055 is up to 150 trillion. We are in what's called a debt spiral. It is just going to keep going up. All right, so let's go back to the last 2 months. $1.3 trillion added to debt since July 3rd. Remember Freedom Day when we signed the big, beautiful bill? We've added 1.3 trillion of debt. Okay, what is that for the year? That's like 6 trillion, right? That's 500 billion a month. That's insane, guys. All right. So in the last year, this debt number has gone up $3 trillion. All right. So that's about 10%. So what does that mean? That means that the government, through mismanagement of your money, local, state, federal, it transcends politics. This is not political. Okay, through that, by adding 10% to this number, has cut your pay by 10% and made everything you want 10% more expensive. You want to get rich? It's going to take 10% more money. All right. So for me, I don't care about this dude at all and what he does. He doesn't control any of that. All right. It's all just short-term noise. Long-term, this is the number to watch. This is the number I care about. And it's about beating that number. Okay. So how does all this matter for real estate? What is Jerome Powell going to do today? He's lowering the rate. All right. Guys, if you're in real estate, if you're one of my peoples that's a real estate agent or you're a mortgage broker and you're posting today, hey, Jerome Powell lowered the rate, mortgage rates are dropping, please don't do that. Please don't do that. All right. Do not make that post. All right. Jerome Powell does not set the interest rate for mortgages. Okay. He sets the federal rate. That's the rate that the treasuries are paying out. Okay. New debt is issued, and us as taxpayers, that is what we are paying to the tune of $1 trillion a year out of our tax dollars. Adding to that debt, that's that number. Now, there are repercussions of that number. It does affect lending. Okay. So what I think for real estate, okay, the second order effect that's going to come out of this is right now there's a record $7 trillion parked in money market funds. So that's like where you put it in, they give you 4%, 5%, right? Money market fund. Okay. Pretty much most banks use them. I mean, look at how vertical this chart has gone in the last 2 years. Okay. Because that rate has been high. So you're getting the risk-free, which is BS, is not risk-free because of inflation, but we'll call it the risk-free rate of return is 4 or 5%. Okay. So you're looking at a 6-family deal right now in Fall River where mortgage rates high and the yield on that is maybe 3 or 4% with a bunch of risk. What are you doing? You're a conservative investor. You're leaving your money in money market funds. You're not touching it. Okay. But as soon as that rate comes down, when JP lowers the rate over the next few months, that's going to affect money market funds because those rates update all the time. So that money now is going to look for a new home. A lot of people think Bitcoin. A lot of people think stocks. A lot of people think gold. Possibility, 7 trillion is a lot of money. It's going to go everywhere. Okay. But the people that have kept their money in money market funds the last 2 years tend to be conservative investors. As bullish I am on Bitcoin, I don't know how much of that's going to Bitcoin. I do think a lot of that's going to real estate. Okay. So now that deal in Fall River, so the rate, maybe the mortgage rate inched down slightly. Okay. But you're only getting 3% now in your money market. All of a sudden that 4% yield on a 6-family in Fall River doesn't look too bad. So I can see that money moving to real estate, front running rate cuts. Okay. Eventually, I think mortgage rates will trend down. If they bring the Fed rate down enough, mortgage rates will eventually trend down. It did it 5-6 years ago or 4 years ago when they did all that. Okay. The problem, though, where mortgage rates are impacted is because of this inflation and all the things they're doing. Okay. Nobody wants our debt. Okay. So right here, the U.S. has tried to issue $200 billion of bonds in just 5 weeks. Okay, they're issuing this debt. No one's buying our debt, right? The people that used to buy our debt don't want it. All right. So when you get a mortgage, that bank doesn't hold it for 30 years. They sell that. So somebody's got to buy that. Like, who wants US dollar denominated debt for 30 years? So that's why there has to be a high premium on that. All right. The government can't sell their own debt. All right. So where are our old debt buyers? What are they buying? Right. China used to buy a lot of our debt. Other countries would buy it. They're all buying gold now, which is nuts. Gold is hitting all-time highs. I don't know if you guys caught that. All right. I don't think it's because, there's a lot of things behind that, but gold is hitting all-time highs. China, which used to buy our debt, which would buy our treasuries and bonds, is no longer buying. They're buying gold. Right. So that's something definitely to pay attention to. I think that as long as the narrative is that US debt is bad, mortgage rates will remain stickily high, right? Until that Fed rate comes way down. If Trump had his way, it would be zero, okay, which is risk on, man. That means all this money that just sits on the sidelines right here, all of this is gone. That's not in those money market accounts anymore. Look right here, when the rates were low, you can see it here. It's more than doubled since that time, okay? So, just something to keep an eye on, all right? So it is bullish overall. If he lowers, it's bullish, but it's just pay attention to understand why and how it impacts. Now, I said I think a lot of that's already priced in. Okay, so Tesla, I'm a big Tesla guy. All right, last week, Thursday and Friday, Tesla had some big gains. I think part of that was people front running the rate cut. Okay, so companies like Tesla, Tesla's not a car company to me. They're an AI company that makes cars right now. But car companies do perform well, right, when the rates are lower, because now auto rates theoretically would come down. Okay, so these two right here, that was, I think, front running the rates Thursday and Friday. Now, what we found out Monday was Elon bought $1 billion worth of his own stock on the market Friday. So that could have been some of that in there too, and the stock jumped, right? Because if your CEO is buying shares, that is huge. You know what I mean? A lot of times they're selling. All right. And then something else that happened last week where we talk about the power of AI. And this is where I invest, guys. I invest in AI because AI will grow faster than our debt. You have to find things that will grow faster than the money is depreciating. That's how you win. Okay. And that, if your money's in money market accounts, you're getting 5% and they're adding 10% a year to the debt, you've lost half your gain. It's gone, So Oracle last week, an old company from the .com era, which is still around, popped 23% after they reported that all of a sudden they're in the AI game now, right? So OpenAI said that they are going to buy server space, buy computing power from Oracle. So OpenAI has no money. So I thought this was funny. If you understand OpenAI and all that. So Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI. He said, I need GPUs, which is computing power. Larry Ellison, who's the CEO of Oracle, was like, we used to do databases, but sure, Oracle can build GPU. So Sam Altman, but we don't have money, as Elon said, because everyone thinks, which I think is true, right? That guy talks a lot. So Larry is like, let's sign a $300 billion deal. The stock pumps $244 billion in a day. Now they have the money. So it's just funny how this stuff works, right? So, but Larry Ellison's in the news again today. All right. Last thing I'm going to leave you with, we're going to finish up here. A lot of people were stressing out about TikTok. Was it getting canceled? Supposedly Trump put the deal together, guys. And Larry Ellison, this is the guy from Oracle. Guy's 81 years old, man. When you got that kind of dough. Oh, and by the way, when that stock pumped, when this happened last week, he was actually richer than Elon Musk. So some people think Elon bought $1 billion of shares to become richer than Larry Ellison again. I don't know, but it's whatever. So Larry is part of this TikTok deal. So TikTok is saved, guys, supposedly. That's the news I read this morning. Okay, that was the big thing. Trump was going to shut it down. He didn't want the CCP owning it. So basically 80% is going to go to U.S. companies. Okay, and Oracle is one of them. 20% will still be owned by China, but it's an American board with government U.S. oversight, and there's a separate app algorithm from the global TikTok. So we'll have to download a new app, but everything should carry over, and it's a different algorithm, and the Chinese don't steal your data. Okay, there you go. All right, guys, so let's see what happens today. Pay attention. 2 o'clock is the announcement. 2:30 is the remarks. Again, none of this stuff matters. Long term, it's all about this number right here. Okay, watch that number. It goes up every day. It's never going to stop. You got to beat that rate that it's increasing to win. All right, guys, good talking to you. Thank you. Comment below if you like the fresh merch. All right, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.